Okay, hello and welcome everyone to Engineers Ireland South African Global Engineers event. We're delighted to be holding this event to kind of raise awareness about Engineers Ireland for the South African community, but also to talk on, to kind of celebrate the impact that South African engineers are having here in Ireland. I hope I'm sharing the correct screen. I think I am. Just to say that for today's event, my name is Michael Gallagher and from Engineers Ireland side of things. Moving into the event proper, what's going to happen is myself and Pierre Yimbog, we're going to do a little bit of talking about Engineers Ireland for those who maybe haven't joined yet, or for those who are members and want to kind of make the most of their membership. Our colleague Katie Daffy shall talk about the mutual recognition agreements with the Engineering Council of South Africa. It's really important to kind of get your professional titles from the Engineering Council of South Africa recognised while you're in Ireland, and it's a fairly simple, straightforward process. We'll very happily talk you through. Corinne Muller will be kind of giving insights from the recruitment perspective as someone who's kind of actively helped so many South Africans make that journey from South Africa to Ireland. And finally, we'll have Peter Smith kind of speaking as the South African engineer, someone who's been working in Ireland for quite some time now, about his own journey and his own perspective. So we have a really exciting conversation coming up, and I will get moving into it. So these are kind of topics that Pierre and I will just cover rather quickly, talking whether it's the latest kind of travel to Ireland restrictions, the critical skills visa, a bit about membership of Engineers Ireland, a bit about CPD, which is continuous professional development, and then a bit about finding a job in Ireland. Speaking on the first aspect, and one thing that we're really happy to be able to announce is that we're planning an in-person event finally after a long time waiting. We're hoping to do a kind of Freedom Day event in April 2022, just kind of specifically for South Africans who have made in Ireland their home place. So look, we're really looking forward to doing that, and that's maybe a date for your diary, is to keep that in mind. Speaking on the kind of travel to Ireland, for anyone who's thinking about it, you can always find this information on hse.ie, which is the most up-to-date. That's Health Service Executive. But there's no mandatory hotel quarantine as of the 23rd of September 2021. So it's good news that things are starting to open up again and that travel is finally possible. And then on the employment visa, where you can check it out is enterprise.gov.ie. And you can look up the SOC3 employment category, which is the critical skills shortage visa. And you look down to through the categories to 212, you'll find all the engineering professionals who are eligible for critical skills visa. So look, it's a great place to be able to start looking for work if you're interested in making that move to Ireland. On the professional titles, Katie Daffy is going to go into this in some more detail, but just to say that the chartered engineer title is the equivalent of the professional engineer title. And all of our professional titles that we have in Ireland are matched with the Engineers Council of South Africa, and the mutual recognition agreement will mean that you'll be able to transfer that over to Ireland. But look, we'll go into that in more detail shortly. To say, of those of you who perhaps don't yet have an Engineers Council South Africa professional title, we do recognise all South African qualifications through the Washington Accord. So South Africa is a Washington Accord signatory, which is great news for your ability to move across to Ireland and get your degree recognised. Pierre, I might just hand this part over to you.
So yeah, thank you, Michal, and welcome everybody again. So as Michal, as we'll explain further on, so if you do choose to come to Ireland and hopefully become a member of Engineers Ireland, it's really important that you do look to upskill yourself and continue to enhance your skills in different areas. So we have different opportunities for you to do so as a member of Engineers Ireland, whether it be through coaching other people like we have this evening. Some of our speakers who are helping us by speaking and sharing their experiences. That's one aspect of it, or whether to go into further education to whether if you're coming here from college or from study and you want to further study yourself, or joining different courses and seminars just like these again to enhance your skills. So there are definitely many opportunities to continue to improve and enhance your skills. So So then our next then is then if you, in order to keep track of all of that, which is very important, and it's something that we vary really importantly in Engineers Ireland, is your CPD, and as Michal said, your continual professional development. So like courses like these or webinars like these will count to continual professional development. So this can all be logged in your membership dashboard there. And then if you are currently a member, you can log this one. So you'll have one more than Michal has currently. So that'll be a good start. But there's more opportunities coming up in the next couple of weeks, such as our national conference coming up on the 13th of October, which will have a great array of speakers talk about various subjects and topics that might be of interest to you. So make sure you sign up for that. So once you're a member, it's totally free for you to attend. So yeah, that's one that you may consider yourselves coming up. So back to you, Michal. Oh, sorry, this is my part again. So yeah, in addition, also there's ways you can also get involved and connect and network, especially if you come from South Africa. It's a great opportunity for you to network with other professionals within your field. So if you're not going to be living in Dublin specifically, but maybe other parts of Ireland, there's different regions that you can network and join in, such as the Thomond region for the Limerick area, or the Donegal, the North area also. There's also engineering divisions, again, specific to maybe your different areas that you're coming from, whether it be civil, structural. There again, you can network. There'll be training events specific to those areas of engineering, and again, to further develop yourself. There's also societies there of specific interest for you. So if any of you maybe consider yourself young engineers, we do see anybody under 35 as young, but anyone anything that they're of interest that you might want to expand your interest in, there again an opportunity to do that. So, and all of these are available to you as a member once you sign up and join. And obviously they'll have different online events and hopefully more in-person events in the future too.
Thank you, Pierre. That was a great overview. And yeah, look, just to say another thing, if you're looking to build up your CPD hours, you can get involved with our STEPS program, where we kind of encourage the next generation of engineers to get involved. One unfortunate thing in Ireland is that there isn't, we're trying to get more women involved in engineering. So we go into the secondary schools, or perhaps the word would be high school in South Africa, and we encourage them to take part. And look, if you're coming from South Africa, it can be a great way to get to know the schools in the area if you're bringing your family with you. So that's called the STEPS program, and it's a really kind of interesting way to start engaging with schools. With Engineers Ireland as well, look, we have Engineers Journal. If you're interested in kind of thought leadership, whether you want to author your own articles or catch up on the latest in engineering in different fields, that's one way to keep involved in that area. And Pierre, I might just hand it back over to you for this.
Yeah, thanks, Michal. So in addition to the Engineers Journal, also there's Engineers TV. So recordings like these should be uploaded to there where you can find them easily. But any other talks or webinars or courses that may be held, that'll be accessible for you as members. But be sure to check it out. In addition to like the journal or Engineers TV. So if there's anything specific that you want to have included yourself, or that you want to participate, please reach out. Again, these can all be counted to your CPD, whether you're listening and joining in, or whether you're also submitting and getting involved yourself. So please check it out once you sign up. Another interesting thing also, obviously, some of you here, maybe when you're considering coming over to Ireland, is to look for a job also, or you may already have jobs lined up, but we have our own jobs desk here. So these are employers who will put in ads of different jobs. So this is just a screen grab of today's, so you can see there's plenty of opportunities already, and it's a good thing to see now that things are opening up and hopefully the employment market is increasing again. So do check it out if there's anything there that may be of interest and you will be looking to apply to. This can all be done again through the membership dashboard.
Absolutely, thank you, Pierre. And yeah, look, we're about to hand over to Katie, and Katie's presentation is going to cover what to do if you already got a professional title from overseas. But if you don't, look, the link in the description below for those who are catching the recording will bring you to here, telling you how to join from overseas. It's really easy if you're from South Africa. Definitely one of the easiest countries to join from across the world. And if you don't have a professional title already, it'll bring you through the steps where you just give us your personal details, your engineering qualification details. We'll need to see a verified copy of that. who's employing you, and then you make a payment. So it's very simple and straightforward process of doing that. And you can find the link in the description below. So I'm going to hand it over to Katie Daffy now, and a big thank you for Pierre for helping me with that presentation. But Katie, over to you.
Thanks, Michal. Good evening, everybody. Lovely to be here. So I'm going to share my screen now. And as Michal said, I'm going to talk through mutual recognition agreements, and we'll get started. So to begin with, what are these agreements? So they exist between certain countries, and they're there to provide mutual recognition of an engineer's professional title. So they're very important to us here at Engineers Ireland. We know how much work goes into applying for a professional title, and we want to ensure that the titles we award are something that our members can travel with. And also we want to make it easy for engineers coming from other countries, to make sure that they can have their titles recognized by us here easily as well, and they can go into the workforce with their professional titles. So these are the countries that we have agreements with. There are 6 in total, and as you can see, South Africa is there, represented by the Engineering Council of South Africa. So the titles we recognise there are Professional Engineer, which is the equivalent to our Chartered Engineers here in Ireland. We recognise the Professional Engineering Technologist title, which is the equivalent of the Associate Engineer title here with ourselves. And lastly, we also recognise the Professional Engineering Technician, which is the equivalent of an Engineering Technician with Engineers Ireland. So if you're somebody that has one of these titles, how do you get it recognised by Engineers Ireland? First off, we ask that you email us, so membership@engineersireland.ie, pop in the subject line Mutual Recognition Agreement, and include details of the title you hold and that you have it with the Engineering Council of South Africa. We then get you to fill out an application form. We ask for proof of your qualification, which Michal just mentioned there earlier as well. It's part of becoming a member too. There's an application fee and an annual subscription fee. And lastly, we ask you to fill out a consent form as well. The application form is really straightforward. So we're looking for your personal details, employment details, what title you hold. If you know a member of Engineers Ireland and they've recommended us to you, you can also put them down as a referrer. And when you're elected to membership with Engineers Ireland, they receive a €100 voucher from ourselves. So it's a nice incentive for them as well. Next up is verification of qualifications. So we're a qualifications-based membership body, and the criteria for membership includes proof of your engineering qualification. So there are a number of ways that you can do this, and we talk you through it and talk through the whole process. A simple way is sending on a copy or a picture of your parchment, your transcript, or your letter to another member of Engineers Ireland, and they can provide verification by email. And you can also bring it to a public notary, or there's also an online verification platform called Digitry, and you can use that to provide proof to Engineers Ireland of your qualification. Then there is an application fee. So there is a one-off application fee to have your title recognised by Engineers Ireland. So it's a one-time payment of €100. You must then also pay the annual subscription fees because you're becoming a member as well. And you have to be a member with Engineers Ireland to operate with your title here. So the annual subscription fees, they start at €280, and they just vary slightly depending on what title that you have. The last piece of paperwork we need is a professional title verification and consent form. So you fill that out for us. We will then contact the Engineering Council of South Africa. We'll confirm that 1, you are still a member with them and you're a member in good standing, so your fees are all paid up. And then 2, that you have achieved your title through their standard professional review procedure. So this is an important point to note. We can only recognise titles that were achieved through a standard professional review procedure, and they'll confirm that for us that that is the case. So once all this paperwork is in order, we then present it to our membership board. So they meet once a month, and they will review your application, and you're then elected as a member of Engineers Ireland, and you're also given them permission to use your title here in Ireland. So it could be the Chartered Engineer title, the Associate Engineer title, or Engineering Technician, depending on what title you've achieved with the Engineering Council of South Africa. Then we have some testimonials, so just from other engineers that have been through the process. So this is from an engineer who was in the UK, they came back to Ireland, and they had worked really hard in the UK to have their title recognised, or to become a chartered engineer with CIBSE over there. They came back to Ireland and they were very happy to hear about the agreement that we had with the UK, and they could have their title recognised really easily through us. And the same here for a Canadian engineer moving to Ireland. So for them, they believe that holding the title of Chartered Engineer in Ireland would allow them to pursue jobs that they may not otherwise have available to them. They had achieved their professional engineer title in Canada. So we had to have an agreement with that country and they were able to have it recognised through Engineers Ireland. So it's the same for South African engineers coming here. If you've worked hard and you've achieved your title there, we are happy to recognise it here. You do not have to do their application, or long application or an interview. It's just a case of just doing the paperwork for us and applying to become a member, and you can have your title recognised here and you can operate in Ireland with it as well. That brings me to the end of my part. Thanks everyone for your time. I'm now going to hand you over to Corinne Muller, who is a recruitment consultant in Ireland for PRL Integrated Services. Over to you, Corinne.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Michal and Pierre from Engineers Ireland for putting this lovely event together again. It's great to be part of another one. You guys are champions at it now. And so many South Africans, welcome to you. Goeienaand aan almal. It's good to see there's so much interest in becoming an engineer or in taking up an engineering role in Ireland. Now, from my side, I suppose where we fit into the network is Michal touched on the critical skills. We all know that there's a skill shortage globally. Engineers fall into one of those categories of shortages. And we know a lot of South Africans have already been filling that gap in Ireland successfully over the last couple of years and adding value to Ireland and the engineering community. As a recruiter, we also part of trying to fill that gap by connecting engineers to suitable job openings and vacancies. And this is across the board. From the PRL side, we also have other specialities. So one of our other consultants might also be able to assist a spouse that might be looking for something in a different industry. We specialize in IT, engineering, finance, warehouse and logistics, pharmaceutical. So there's a couple of industries being covered, but our clients would be across the board. I'm glad to say that two of the guys that were part of the previous event reached out, and both of them, I suppose they won't be on tonight because they already found jobs. So the one gentleman secured that from South Africa, and the other one was already in Ireland. His wife was offered a position, so he then arrived. And I think after his paperwork was sorted with immigration, took about 6 or 8 weeks, and then he started the 1st of September. So it's good. Michal also said, and Pierre also mentioned the job desk and lots of movement at the moment. Yes, we're all glad to see that things are opening up and a lot more roles coming on, lots more movement on the job fronts. And well, we're here to assist. It's just another channel for anyone that's looking for a suitable role. Some of the guys have just reached out from last event just to ask about little things, and I think Peter will also share about that in his personal journey, but just little things like how do I switch over my driver's license, how do I deal with and approach a property agent, all of those little things, you know, opening up a bank account, what do we do first, how do I prioritize all the steps I need to follow. So just general advice, because my family and myself also did the transition successfully. So in those little things, we also able to assist and provide advice, and hopefully also find you a suitable job. But if you just want to soundboard certain things and just ask for general advice, you're so welcome to get in touch. I'm also part of a business community in network in Ireland. I think that's the whole thing, is that once you connect with other people in Ireland, whether it's South Africans or someone that you have a mutual interest with, the whole thing is about community and feeling that you belong somewhere. Now, there's a whole big network group of business people in Ireland, South Africans. It's a South African Chamber of Commerce, and it's just been lovely being part of them as well. There's a lady that's got a couple of butcheries set up, so you'll be able to get your biltong and boerewors. I know in some of the shops I've been able to get some Mrs. Paul's chutney. You'll discover that if you put something in the mail, it arrives the next day, so you don't have to be nervous if someone says they'll mail something out to you. So a lot of wonderful things to experience in Ireland. A lot of the people I've also found have the same type of values as us in South Africa, good, strong family values. So the transition for us as a family was not that big. I've also worked with an American company, so I think there were a lot more similarities for me in Ireland, for us as a family. So from schools to all those things on your punch list when you consider moving to Ireland, happy to assist. As I said, Peter might share a little bit of that, and there might be some questions at the end. So yeah, Mel, Katie, Pia, I think that's me.
That was super. Thank you so much. And look, we're really delighted that you're able to be part of this again, and looking forward to the questions and answers and the open mic panel we do after the recording. But before we get to that, I would like to hand it over to Peter Smith. And I guess Peter is someone who's walked the walk, and he's going to talk the talk in terms of he's made this transition very successfully, and he has some great tips and advice that he will be able to pass on. So Peter, I'm happy to hand it over to you.
Hi, thanks, Miel, and thanks, Corinne, for kind of leading there. Yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased to be part of this conversation. It's something I feel strongly about. I've been a member of Engineers Ireland as well, and kind of would like to share some of my experiences. I think it's probably be very valuable to any engineers who's considering moving to Ireland. So I'll just talk about my personal career, in Ireland. Kind of where I worked and what I did. And then I'll probably get into more the nuts and bolts of adapting, probably relating to a lot of what Corinne was mentioning there earlier. So I graduated in 1992 and joined Transnet. So I worked in Transnet till 2002 when I started looking for new opportunities. And I actually applied for a position at a local authority in Ireland, Fingal County Council. It's one of the 4 local authorities that makes up the Greater Dublin area. I was successful in my application. Didn't really know much about Ireland, to be brutally honest. So it was a bit of a learning curve. I had to once I got the job, I had to frantically look around and see what happened. But I got a 2-year temporary contract with Fingal County Council, local authority. It suited me, it's a bit of stability, and it allowed me to just settle in. So I came over on my own. My wife remained in South Africa for about 3 months, and worked in the environment section, even though I didn't know much about environment, but it was a great learning experience, meeting a lot of new people, getting involved in the culture. I then moved into the water services section in Fingal, where I was involved in a couple of large capital projects as a resident engineer. Moved into the projects office, where working closely with consultants and tender documents and litigation, conciliation processes. I then moved into the water operations side. I was a plant manager for a wastewater treatment plant in Fingal. Which was a great experience, really improved my management skills and understanding of operational activities in that space. In 2014, Irish Water was established by the Irish government as a public utility, the national water public utility. And I joined Irish Water in 2014 as a kind of change in kind of career, new challenges, and kind of the beginning of something new, as this was kind of a new organization that's kind of working towards kind of bringing in all the water services across the country, 31 local authorities into one single public utility. So I worked in the capital projects division before I moved into the operations side, where I'm still working now, really kind of looking at risk management and risk mitigation. So it's really been a great learning experience for me over the last 19 years, from the local authority right through to where I am now, which is kind of in a middle management position. So that's been kind of very, very good, and continue to learn every day, as they say. But just probably talk about some of the kind of personal experiences that I went through, and probably relating to some of the comments that Corinne made there. You know, the recognition of our qualifications in South Africa makes Ireland kind of very attractive. You know, what I've found from my experiences, that Irish employers really value the experience and knowledge of South African engineers. They reward hard work and commitment. I think it's something that's kind of resonated with South Africans across the world, that kind of host nations appreciate hard work and dedication, and that's kind of something South Africans are renowned for. So, and that gets recognized, which is actually very, very helpful and kind of nice to know. The Irish are very kind of friendly and welcoming and accommodating, and as Corinne mentioned there, you know, it's kind of very similar values. You know, they kind of a fairly kind of engaging nation, and that kind of makes kind of adapting so much easier. The fact that you can speak English yet, you know, compared to kind of maybe other European countries, and also that kind of Ireland is now kind of part of the EU bloc, where Great Britain has kind of Brexit now, so it kind of opens up other opportunities to work in kind of mainland Europe as well. The Irish enjoy sport similar to South Africans. They play Gaelic football and hurling, which is kind of they're two traditional sports, something I didn't know until I came here. You know, obviously they play rugby, a bit of cricket, so that's kind of probably kind of something where we have a lot in common. They enjoy a good time, you know, they kind of work hard, but then they play equally hard. You know, they kind of support kind of society, so kind of very kind of society-based, community-based culture, you know, looking out for each other, which is kind of really refreshing, and something that has kind of allowed us to kind of really settle in Ireland. You know, it's safe. You know, I don't have to worry if I have to walk at night kind of around where we live, or my wife has to drive somewhere with the children. You know, it's safe, and there's a lot of value that you kind of put into that, especially with kind of sometimes what goes on in South Africa. Geographically, it's a small country, so you can get around it kind of fairly quickly. You know, I think there's about 4.5 million people, maybe closer to 5 million now, but still, you know, it's probably the number of people here is almost as much as in Pretoria, but they're well spaced out. And, you know, Ireland is one of those kind of countries that probably punch way above its weight. You know, they make international headlines. They're in the center of many things, and it always amazes me, you know, how well they are presented, and considering the kind of size and the population. They have a very good public transport system, specifically in Dublin, where I live. I know the cities are probably well served by that, but there's trains, there's buses. I use the local bus service to get into town where our offices are. Obviously, with COVID now, I've been working at home, very good internet infrastructure. So the last 18 months, we could work at home. Everything works. You know, occasionally there's a power failure, and it's almost as if it's the end of the world. You know, so it's a kind of rarity when it does happen. But the public transport is really good. A lot of people use it, and it's kind of almost acceptable to do that. It saves on sitting in a car in traffic. The traffic gets quite kind of bad, specifically in Dublin. It can get quite hectic. The The country is very different to South Africa, as you would imagine, but it has its own beauty. It's some really stunning places, and you know, your breath will be taken away if you see some of the sites here. It is something to behold. Also, you know, as Corinne mentioned, that, you know, things work. You know, postal services work. You know, the government organizations work. You know, you can apply for it once you kind of become a citizen and you stay long enough. You can apply for citizenship, and you know, renewal of a passport is a couple of days. You know, you do it online. It's you know, it's just great that everything works when it's supposed to work. We've had good experiences with the public health system. Really, kind of, as far as I'm concerned, very good. I know there's different people have different experiences, but it probably depends what your reference framework is. Some of the challenges, and I think it's probably worth mentioning that Miel kind of said, it's probably something that I will share, things that you might not always think about, and I think Corinne kind of touched on some of that. You know, I think even if you kind of come across to Ireland, my experience was that, you know, if you take up a job, you know, employers will probably want to kind of see how you perform. So you might have to take a step back to take a step forward. I think you have to accept that, you know, employers take a risk on you. They don't know where you come from. They don't know your kind of experience. So they want to kind of get to know you. So it's something that you might have to do, is to take a step back before you can take a number of steps forward. I think one of the kind of things a lot of South Africans kind of go through is kind of the loneliness. You know, you move over firstly, and it takes a bit of time to settle in. You know, there's no denying that. If you come over with a family, it makes it easier, but your family will kind of find it kind of difficult. I think the first year is really the most challenging. You're trying to hit the ground running. You're trying to fit in. You try to get everything kind of set up, you know, get bank accounts kind of set up. You want to get a car. You want to get accommodation. It is challenging. If you had a kind of support network at home, brothers, sisters, parents, you suddenly wouldn't have it here. So you'll have to dig deep. But you know, there's a kind of saying that immigration is not for sissies, and that's very true. So you need to dig deep, but a lot of South Africans have made it work. It is tough, but once you come through the other side, it's absolutely worth it. You know, after 19 years, I'm still here. My family's here. My 2 children were born here. This is home for us now. You know, the other thing I would say as well, and you know, Corinne can probably kind of support you guys with that, is do your homework. You know, make sure that you know where you want to work, what you want to do, maybe where you want to live, get to know the country, know the visa process, all the different work permits. It makes things easier, you know, once you kind of do your homework. So definitely recommend that. The weather, always a big talking point, even between the Irish, but for South Africans even more so. It does rain here a lot, especially over winter. It is substantially cooler here. You know, they talk about a heat wave, 23, 24 degrees during the summer as a heat wave. So, you know, that they don't know what kind of 30 degrees feel like. In winter, it's shorter days. It becomes much wetter. I once heard somebody say, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. You'll learn to live with it. You probably will never get used to it, but you learn to live with it. Get the right clothes. And, you know, to be fair, the Irish kind of do that very well. They get out and about, they dress appropriately, and you go out. Otherwise, you end up sitting in your house for a long period. You know, from a professional perspective, you know, one of the things I kind of realized when I came over here is not to always try to change everything. You know, you came across because of your experience and your skills that you have, but this is Ireland. They do things kind of differently. You need to kind of probably kind of work a little bit within that kind of environment. They don't always want you to change everything. You know, bring your experience, see what works, and you know, then they're kind of reluctant if you start saying, well, in South Africa we do it this way, and in South Africa we do it that way. You know, maybe kind of hold back a little bit on that. See what you can do to kind of improve and fit in and kind of work within the framework there. You know, it's something we kind of realize as well, that we're guests in this country. You know, we choose to come here, they choose to accept us. And I think just always keep that in the back of your mind, you know, and if you don't like it yet, you can always leave. You know, that's that's kind of the free choice that you have. We also, what does it get involved? Yes, I think one of the kind of other kind of important things to help you settle in, and Corinne would probably attest to this, is get involved. It can be very lonely, but one way to kind of break that loneliness, if you're on your own, get involved in clubs. Engineers Island have group social interactions, sports clubs, interest clubs. There's a lot of volunteering happening in Ireland. Labor is in short supply, so they're always looking for people to help in the village, trying, doing cleanups in the village. I kind of help out with putting up Christmas lights in the lead up to Christmas. I used to kind of coach a bit of rugby at one of the rugby clubs here when my son was still playing. So, that's how you get to know people, and you get to meet people with kind of similar interests. So, and get involved in schools. If you have small children, joining schools, get involved in the schools, parent-teacher bodies, helping out. Schools are always just too happy to have parents kind of volunteering their time to kind of help out. So, probably kind of the last thing to say, there's a couple of Facebook pages where you can get some good advice as well. So there is help out there, and if anybody wants to make the move, good luck. A lot of us have made that move, and we're still here, so it definitely paid off. So all the best in your endeavors if you decide to move. So I might hand over to you, Neil.
Thank you so much, Peter. That was a really fascinating insight, and I'm so glad they shared. And from Engineers Ireland perspective, it really means a lot to us to have one of our chartered engineers kind of weigh in on the discussion, and to very graciously give up his time and help with our discussion. So I guess there are 30 of us here, and what I might do is I'm going to end the recording now, and